What if today I took you to the countries where 1,000 USD per month is enough for you to live safer, more comfortably, and with more peace of mind than in the US? Places where rent is 70% cheaper, healthcare costs just a few dozen dollars, and a good meal costs only 2-3 USD. And the most surprising part? You don't need complicated paperwork. You don't need to buy a house, and you don't need to speak the language well. The real barrier is simply, you've never thought you could live this easily. If you're tired of bills, inflation, and the worries of retirement, then stay with me for a few minutes. I will take you to the places where smart Americans are choosing a new life. Lighter, cheaper, and happier. Dream it. Pack it. Go. 5. Colombia. The land of eternal spring, where Americans rediscover the chapter of life they once lost. Colombia, or as many Americans affectionately call it, the land of eternal spring, is a place where anyone who sets foot here feels life slow down by one beat and the heart lighten by one beat. It doesn't feel like a tourist destination. It feels like a quiet invitation. Live again the way you've always wanted. And because of that, many Americans land at José María Córdoba Airport thinking, I'll stay a few weeks just to see, but end up leaving a few years later with an entirely new life. Morning in Medellin brings sunlight that is not harsh like Phoenix, not biting like Minneapolis, but gentle, clear, and soft, falling over the green hills in a way that makes you want to stand still just to feel it. Cool air drifts across the balcony. Birds call to each other across red-tiled roofs. The scent of Arabica coffee from Antioquia farms sneaks through every corner of Laureles, all blending into a very distinct sound, the sound of a life that isn't rushed. Older people stroll slowly. Young people laugh over hot tinto. And you, an American once worn down by medical bills and rent, suddenly find yourself breathing a little deeper and living a little slower. What makes Colombia a smart choice isn't just its beauty, it's the liberating cost of living. With just about 300 to 500 USD a month, you can rent a clean, secure one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Medellin. Utilities rarely exceed 100 USD. Groceries usually cost about 170, 220 USD, most of it fresh produce from the valley. And eating out, from bandeja paisa to roasted chicken rice, is only around 4-6 USD. Even if you decide to treat yourself to a better meal every day, the total would never shock you. And when you add everything up, a retiree's monthly cost sits comfortably between 700 and 1,200 USD. The amount of money that once barely covered a portion of your health insurance in the US now becomes a full, peaceful month of living in Colombia. But what truly makes Americans over 55 choose Colombia isn't the price. It's healthcare. In the US, you have to calculate every appointment, every pill. In Colombia, you're treated by doctors trained in the US or Europe, in modern hospitals like Clínica Medellín or Fundación Santa Fe. A general checkup costs only about 45–80 USD. Private insurance usually ranges from 60–120 USD per month. There is no fear every time you look at a bill. Instead, there is the feeling of being genuinely cared for, a feeling many say they forgot existed back home. Colombia's retirement visa is as gentle as its climate. You only need to prove an income of about 975 USD per month to apply for the M11 visa. No home purchase required, no major investment, no tens of thousands of dollars in deposits like in many other countries. After a few years of living here, you can apply for permanent residency, even citizenship. That simplicity is exactly why many Americans call Colombia the most retiree-respecting country in South America. Daily life here carries a rhythm Americans rarely feel back home. Leisurely morning walks in laureles, a lunch of roasted chicken or a hot bowl of ajiaco, afternoons sipping coffee overlooking the city, and evenings listening to live music in Envigado under warm yellow lights. On weekends, you can go to Guatapé, where the lake is emerald green, or Salento, where the wax palms tower beyond imagination, or Cartagena, the golden seaside colonial city. No rushing schedules, no crowds, just living. And then many people realize that what they find in Colombia isn't a new home, but a new version of themselves. John, a retiree from Ohio, once said, "In the U.S., I spent the last 20 years of my life paying bills. In Medellin, I use my time to live for myself." That sentence is the truth for thousands of Americans who have found the rhythm they lost in modern life. Of course, Colombia isn't perfect. A few areas of major cities shouldn't be visited at night. Traffic can be as crowded as Los Angeles during rush hour, and the rainy season can sometimes last longer than you'd hope. But as long as you choose the right neighborhoods like Laureles, Envigado, or El Poblado, you will feel the safety, cleanliness, and warmth of any good American city, only at a fraction of the cost. Colombia isn't a place to run away from your old life. It's a place to start again, gently, peacefully, and full of hope. And now I want to ask you, if you had 1,000 USD per month to rebuild your life, would Colombia be on your list? Would you choose the spring-like climate, the fragrant coffee, or the peaceful rhythm of life? Leave a comment below, because your answer might open a new chapter for yourself or for someone else who feels lost. 4. Albania. The secret balcony of Europe, where Americans find a freedom they never expected. Albania, a country quietly called the secret balcony of Europe by travelers, is not the kind of place you see on popular postcards. It feels like a half-open door, and only those curious and brave enough to step closer discover that behind it lies an entirely different world. Greener, cheaper, and warmer than you ever imagined. Americans visiting for the first time often have the same reaction. Why has no one told me about this place? And strangely, that very lack of fame becomes Albania's greatest charm. A country so beautiful it feels unreasonable, yet so inexpensive it feels unbelievable. Morning in Tirana doesn't begin with the blaring traffic of Los Angeles or New York. Here, you wake up to the sound of silence. The trees along Deshmore et Combat Boulevard rustle as if telling stories. Cafes open early, brewing espresso with the same devotion Italians pride themselves on, but at a fraction of the price of Rome or Milan. American retirees often say they love watching how Albanians talk to one another. Slower, friendlier, and seemingly with more time to actually live. Then they discover the second thing. The cost of living in Albania feels like stepping 20-25 years back in time. A one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Tirana costs only about 320-500 USD per month. Utilities and internet are usually under 110 USD, and groceries are so cheap you have to double-check your receipt to make sure you didn't misread it. Mediterranean vegetables, fresh cheeses, warm bread, pure olive oil. Everything is priced so gently that many Americans feel like they are living luxuriously at a working-class cost. Eating out, whether at a family-run eatery or a nice restaurant, rarely exceeds 6 to 12 USD per person, and when everything is added up, a retiree spends only about 800–200 USD per month for a full, comfortable life, a number even Southeast Asian countries are beginning to struggle to match. But Albania has one thing that many other low-cost countries simply cannot match: a 365-day visa-free stay for Americans. This feels like holding a freedom ticket that lasts an entire year. No paperwork, no worries, no complicated documents. You arrive, stay, experience, and if you want to extend, the process is still easy. A rare European country that opens its arms so naturally makes Americans feel genuinely welcomed, not like visitors who must prove endless documents. Americans come to Albania not just for the cost, but for the feeling of touching real Europe without carrying the burden of expensive Europe. You can drive from Tirana down to Vlore and see water so clear you can see straight to the bottom. You can stand on the white cliffs of Dermi and watch the sunset, where the Mediterranean glows a brilliant orange that makes you feel like you're in Greece or Croatia, but at half the price. You can go to Shkodër, where the lake is so wide and peaceful that sitting still for just 10 minutes calms your entire mind. And what's special is that these places are not yet crowded like Santorini or Barcelona. They still feel yours, as if the world hasn't rushed to discover them yet. Karen's story, a retiree from Ohio, leaves many people speechless. She came to Tirana planning to stay 1 month, and 6 months later she still hadn't gone back. She said she knew the names of 3 pastry sellers, a tailor, and a cafe owner downstairs, and they knew she liked extra cheese, preferred toasted bread, and liked sunny days more than rainy ones. I used to live in a place where even neighbors didn't know each other's names. Here, I truly exist. That sentence is the reason why many Americans feel Albania isn't just cheap. It's a place where people start seeing each other again. It's undeniable that Albania still has the edges of a country in transition. Some older areas of Tirana are noisy. Some streets are still unfinished. Winter in the north is colder than you might expect, and English isn't as common as in the Philippines or Colombia. Iced tea isn't readily available, and you'll need to get used to the not fast but not slow rhythm of Albanian life. But these things aren't barriers. They are simply part of the adjustment process when living in a country that still preserves its raw charm. Albania doesn't loudly advertise itself. It doesn't wear the flashy shine of expensive cities, nor does it chase modernity at any cost. It feels like a beautiful secret reserved only for those willing to look closely. And for Americans who want a life that is affordable, safe, beautiful, peaceful, friendly, and not restricted by visas, Albania truly is a gift the world has quietly set aside just for them. Now I want to ask you, if you had 1 year to live in a European country without needing a visa, would Albania be one of your choices? And which part of life here makes you the most curious? Leave a comment, because your new hope for living might come from this small country by the Adriatic coast. 3. Vietnam. The land of humid winds and days lived honestly. Vietnam, a place many Americans call by a very personal name. The land of humid winds and days lived honestly doesn't win you over with glamour, but with something far rarer. The feeling of living within life, not standing outside looking in. Here, the rhythm isn't as gentle as Colombia or as mysterious as Albania. It's faster, warmer, more vibrant, like a flowing current that feels more comfortable the deeper you step into it. Morning in Da Nang brings sea breeze heavy with moisture over every rooftop, and the stream of motorbikes flows in a rhythm that is unmistakably Vietnamese. Noisy but not aggressive, fast but not frantic. You step into a small cafe, sit on a green plastic chair, smell the thick aroma of dripping thin coffee rising across the table, and suddenly realize, I just found the kind of morning I lost long ago. The barista smiles kindly, asks a few questions in English mixed with Vietnamese, and instantly makes you feel as if you've known each other before. Then you look at the cost of living and can only let out a gentle sigh of relief. A clean, spacious, secure apartment on the outskirts of Da Nang costs only about 260, 340 USD. Utilities are usually under 90 USD. Hot street food costs just 2, 3 USD, with flavors that make many Americans say, the second half of my life was saved by a bowl of Vietnamese pho ho. A retiree's total monthly cost here is only 625,965 USD, an amount that in the US sometimes isn't even enough for a single medical bill. And healthcare is what surprises many Americans to the point of disbelief. Not disbelief in the quality, but disbelief in how everything can be so fast and so inexpensive. International private hospitals in Hanoi, Da Nang, or Ho Chi Minh City have English-speaking doctors, clear services, and procedures so efficient that many say they no longer feel afraid to walk into a hospital. A basic checkup often costs only 20-40 USD, and that brings a peace of mind many people spend decades in the US trying to find. Daily life in Vietnam pulls you into a gentle yet meaningful flow, sitting in a cafe watching the rain pour down, hearing the morning banh mi calls, riding along the Son Tra coastline, having dinner on the sidewalk under familiar yellow lights. And in those small moments, Americans often say they feel life again, something modern life back home made them forget long ago. Of course, Vietnam has things you must adapt to. The humidity may make you miss the dry heater in Arizona. The rainy season sometimes drags on, and rush-hour motorbikes can make your heart beat faster. But when you choose the right city, the right season, the right neighborhood, like peaceful Hoi An, wide-beached Nha Trang, or modern Da Nang, you will find Vietnam safe, friendly, and very charming in its own way. Vietnam is not a place for an old age that sleeps quietly. It is for those who want to taste the feeling of being alive again. Laughing, eating well, making friends, breathing a morning filled with sea breeze and coffee. And sometimes, that is the kind of retirement worth looking forward to the most. Now I want to ask you, if you could live 1 year in a country where every day smells like coffee, blue ocean, and hot food ready 5 minutes after you order, would you choose Vietnam? Which city would you want to live in the most? And if you've been to Vietnam before, share your honest feelings. Leave a comment, because your answer might become inspiration for someone searching for the next chapter of their life. 2. Paraguay, the silent kingdom of South America, that Americans only discover after everywhere else becomes too crowded. Paraguay, a place many foreigners call the silent kingdom of South America, is a country you never pay attention to until you set foot in it, and then wonder why the whole world hasn't rushed here yet. It doesn't have Mexico's blue beaches or Argentina's famous cities. That very quietness turns Paraguay into the perfect refuge for those who want a life that is simple, cheap, and comfortable to the point of absurdity. Morning in Asuncion begins with golden sunlight as soft as butter, shining over rows of lush green trees and streets wider than you'd expect. The air has a strange calmness to it, as if the whole city agreed together. No one needs to rush. You walk along the park and see older people exercising slowly, cafes opening later than usual, and children playing soccer on the sidewalk without anyone scolding them. Paraguay gives you the feeling of living in a big town, where everything is enough for you to be comfortable, but not enough to wear you out. And then you look at the cost of living and immediately understand why this place is considered a secret paradise for retirees. A one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Asuncion costs only about 220-350 USD, utilities 60-90 USD, groceries around 160-210 USD, and a full month of living ranges from just 605 925 USD. You pay money and receive something few places can offer you: space. Wide homes, wide roads, wide life, both literally and figuratively. Americans who come here often say they breathe easier, not just because of the cost, but because no one is pushing, no one is showing off, and no one makes you feel like you have to keep up with anyone. The most interesting thing about Paraguay is the way they treat foreigners, gently, respectfully, without judgment. Who you are matters far less than how you behave. Many expats say neighbors often bring over some fruit, a bit of pastry, or an invitation to share grilled meat, the famous asado. Paraguay is the kind of country that makes you feel not like a visitor, but like a newly arrived neighbor. The visa in Paraguay is also friendly in a rather unexpected way. The residency path is quite easy, with financial requirements much lighter than many South American countries, clear paperwork, and a government that doesn't make things difficult for those who want to live long-term. This is why many Americans call Paraguay the most breathable country on the continent. However, Paraguay is not a perfect paradise. The internet sometimes takes a day off. The hot season can make you want to sit by a fan all afternoon, and the slow pace of life can make you impatient if you're used to a dynamic environment. But for those who want a simple life, clean, cheap, safe, and no one bothering you, Paraguay is a choice you will never regret. Now I want to ask you, if there were a country where costs are low, people are gentle, and life carries no pressure, would you consider Paraguay? And what makes you the most curious about this quiet country? Share in the comments, because your answer might help someone find their own peaceful corner. 1. Thailand. The warm sun kingdom where time slows down. Thailand, gently called by many Americans the kingdom of warm sunshine and hospitality, is the kind of place where after just a few days of living, you start to wonder why your life ever had to be so rushed. In Chiang Mai, you open your eyes in the morning to the sound of birds mixed with motorbikes moving slowly along old streets. In Hua Hin, the early morning waves are so soft, you'd think someone is whispering beside your ear. There's no typical Bangkok noise, no pressure to keep up with the American pace. Just a space warm enough, slow enough, and gentle enough for you to feel, perhaps for the first time in your life, I am truly living. What surprises Americans most isn't the scenery but the cost of living, which is unbelievably low for a famous tourist country. A neat apartment on the outskirts of Chiang Mai costs only 500–800 USD. Utilities add 80–100 USD. Eating out every day is 2–4 USD, but almost restaurant quality. If you live like a local, total monthly expenses are only around 1,400–2,000 USD, a number that makes many Americans say they, for the first time, see the value of their money. But what makes Thailand stand out even more than other Southeast Asian countries is healthcare. Bumrungrad Hospital, or Bangkok Hospital, has international doctors, modern equipment, fast service, and costs 70–80% less than in the US. A specialist appointment is sometimes only 35–50 USD, and the process is always smooth. No stress, no long waits. This is why thousands of Americans choose Thailand for annual checkups or even elective surgeries. The retirement visa is even more accessible. Just be over 50 years old and show an income of about 2,000 USD or a bank deposit of 25,000 USD, and you can apply for an OA or OX visa to stay long-term without needing to buy a house or make a large investment. The expat community is everywhere, especially in Chiang Mai, Pattaya, and Hua Hin, where you only need to sit in a cafe and someone will ask where you're from. Of course, Thailand isn't perfect. The hot season can be long, traffic is busy during rush hours, and English in rural areas isn't widely spoken. But for those who want a warm, cheap, breathable life with healthcare good enough to feel secure in old age, Thailand always stays at the top. And now I want to ask you, if one day you wake up in warm sunlight and the smoky aroma of khao soi, would you dare choose Thailand as the next chapter of your life? Share your thoughts. I'm very curious. In the end, retirement is not about which country you choose to live in, but which life you choose to live. A life that still has warm sunshine, still has blue ocean, still has mornings without bill anxiety, and afternoons peaceful enough for you to hear your own breath again. The year 2026 is opening doors that previous generations never had. Living better with less money, cheaper healthcare, more safety, and most importantly, a new life you truly deserve. So if it were you, which country would you choose for the next chapter of your life? Leave a comment below, because the answer you give today might become the journey you actually take tomorrow.